Hi, Marie.
Good evening. It's very warm.
Just trying to catch up on my other phone. It's saying waiting for GB. Oh, here we go. I've gone onto the live, but I've got an advert. What's that?
I don't see it on my TV.
No, I can't see it on mine either.
Oh, hang on. Here we are.
Let's see if I can find it.
But I'm connected by StreamYard. It's come onto StreamYard on my TV.
On the other screen?
Yeah.
Right, I can see it now. It is delayed on my other phone. Although I might not be.
It's not on my phone, but it's on the TV. Good evening, folks. Evening, Karen. Evening, Marie. Evening, GLP Shrimp. Gavin, that in it, GLP.
Yeah.
What's his DL stand for? Lawrence.
Yeah, I think it does. Yeah.
That's my dad's name.
There's a real delay because I can see myself on the other phone doing stuff really quietly. Hi, Karen. Hi, Gavin. Hi, Marie. So can you see chat on the other screen?
Yep, I can see both chats. I can see the one you're putting up, and I can also see the normal chat as it comes up.
Yeah, see mine, I've got StreamYard on both, but I can't see comments. Why can't I see comments? Yeah, I'm on there. Italian phone are in sync. Okay, that's good to know. So how many we got on? 7. We'll give it a few minutes. We'll just say hello to everybody, and we'll give people a few minutes to sort of join. And once they've joined, we'll start on our first topic. So you can, Karen. Kaz. Karen. Hi, Keith.
Evening, Keith.
So mine definitely aren't in sync.
Man away out.
$60 seconds or something?
Around that, yeah. It is what it is. Good evening. Good evening, everybody else.
I don't know if 7 p.m. was too early. What time people finish work and have the meals and sit down and stuff, but
it is what it is.
And for everyone who's in here, I've got my headset on, but the reason I've got the headset on is because I've got the AC unit on, and if I was on normal mic, you'd hear the AC unit. So I'm yeah, Gavin says possibly a bit early. Let's put that up.
Maybe. That's late for cooking. I've eaten already.
Cooking at 7:30. I tell you what, you's a dive. You know what time we had food. We when I'm at home, we normally eat about 4 o'clock, but we never eat lunch. So it will always be a very small breakfast and then an early evening meal, and I might snack a little bit later, dependent on calories.
My
Ah,
phone's
so
starting, my camera's starting to catch up with the TV. Oh, she doesn't get around till H1A. Oof.
there's a slight delay now, but it is slight. So I don't know if you want to get started. There's a couple of people in here who know
Shall we
this
give it
stuff.
10 Shall we give it 10 minutes and see if anybody else joins?
Yeah, you can do. I'll talk about the format then of what we're looking to do. So the idea was really for people who are either new to keeping Caridina or who have just started keeping Caridina, and we wanted to, or people that are keeping Neos and wanted to go into keeping Caridina, or you know they feel like taking that next step. And I don't know if we'll cover everything that we've got planned tonight. I hope we do. And I've had a chat with Rob. We've got sort of 7 topics for tonight. Some of them will be quick, some of them will be long, and a lot of it will depend on you guys and how many questions and interactions and stuff like that we've got. So I think the purposes was to sort of, hiya Jeff, was to sort of go through, you know, put a subject up on screen. Me and Rob will discuss that subject and our feelings and our thoughts on that subject. And then at the end of that subject, we'll sort of throw that open to questions. And then once we've exhausted any questions from you guys, we'll move on to the next point. So sort of the format is going to be a topic. Me and Rob will discuss it and our opinions and why, or we'll explain what that topic is, our opinions and why. Then we'll throw it open to questions, and then once we've thrown it open to questions and we've exhausted the questions, we'll move on to the next topic, if that makes sense. So I'll apologize straight away for not keeping up with the comments as they sort of go through. We probably don't think we're being rude. We're probably going to ignore the comments until the end of each section where there's potential questions. And Jeff's in the house. So Jeff, I had an American candy sweet today that I've always wanted to try, and I've never got round to it. And I actually had a moon pie, which I believe is from the US. So my nipper bought me a moon pie, chocolate one, and we shared it. So I think they're designed for 3 people, but we shared it.
Mississippi mud pie.
No, it's called a moon pie. It's a little bit like a triple wagon wheel, but instead of biscuit, it's more like a cake.
Right. Okay.
Jeff likes moon pies. Apparently, he's supposed to microwave them for 10 seconds, so the marshmallow goes all gooey inside. It was pretty dry, cold. So apparently, you're supposed to microwave them first for 10 seconds to get them slightly warm. The nipper did his half for 15 seconds, and I think he overdone it. But
because I get hungry.
I've had sausage, egg, and chips for my tea, but chicken sausage, because as many know, I don't eat pork. No religious reasons or anything like that. I just don't eat pork. Long story. I'll probably get round to tell it.
Who doesn't like bacon?
It's not that I don't like it. It's not that I don't like it. I went completely white meat after just chicken and fish, actually. Chicken, fish and turkey after an operation. Because I was of the understanding that it was a bowel up, so I decided to stop eating red meat. didn't eat red meat for 2 years. Started eating a little bit of lamb and then a little bit of
A lot
beef.
of bacon lovers in the house.
And I just made this conscious decision.
Team bacon.
American bacon's different to UK bacon, but I made this conscious decision just not ever to eat pork. And if anything, I'm a man of my word, and I don't let myself down either. So I made a conscious decision not to eat pork, and I've not eaten pork since. However, I've had chicken and stuffing where the chicken comes already stuffed, and I've been eating it. And I've said to my missus, "Are you sure that's not pork in that stuffing?" No,
Sausage.
it's just sage and onion stuffing. And I ate it about twice, and the second time I said to her, "There's definitely pork in there," and she started laughing. So she's actually been trying to pork poison me with with pork stuffing from I think it was Aldi, a chicken from Aldi. So we've got
Ginger. Mandy, sorry. I will get used to names eventually.
Oh, you can see from there, can't you? Hi Andy, if that's Andy.
Mandy.
Oh
my God.
Mandy. Hi Mandy.
Hi Andy, I'm Mandy.
So we've got 9 in the chat. Do you want to make a start?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So for those who've just joined, I'll just quickly recap. We've got a bit of an agenda to go through, and the idea is that we'll put a section up on screen. Rob and myself will discuss that section, what it is, what our thoughts are on that particular subject, and then at the end of that, we'll open that up to Q&A per section and just go through that. So apologies if I've repeated, well, I know I've repeated it, but apologies for repeating that. And don't think we're ignoring the chat. You guys can chat amongst yourselves, and we'll catch up with chats at the end of each section. So I've got 2 phones here, so it's let me get my banners up, and that's the first one. So RODI, and I'm going to refer to something called spotless water, which is, I'm not sure if it's in the States, definitely in the UK, but put simply, RO is reverse osmosis. It's a way of passing water through a semi-permeable membrane at pressure to remove 99% of the contaminants. An RO system, a basic RO system, is pretty cheap, £40–50 in the UK, and a basic one would have a sediment pre-filter for particulate waste, a carbon filter for chemical removal, and then finally the reverse osmosis membrane itself. The only difference with RO and RODI is after the membrane, you have deionizing resin chambers. I've got 2 on mine. I think Rob's got about 42 on his. And so what the deionizing resin does is it just polishes the water. Both of us, I believe, are in agreement that tap water anywhere in the UK isn't good enough for Caridina shrimp. You might be able to keep them on it. You know, it might be in a really, really good water area, but for them to fully thrive, we both believe that you need reverse osmosis water or RODI water. What spotless water is, it is quite wasteful. So for every drop that you get good out of it that you're collecting, you're probably getting 8 to 10 drops of waste. Now there are ways to sort of replumb that and stuff. It needs pressure. So if you're on a gravity fed system, you'll need a pump. But if you're on a good mains pressure, they're pretty easy to install. You can literally connect one to an outside tap, and mine's all right. Washing machine tap,
and I get free bar, pressure, and 30, that is, and it seems sufficient enough. I get 200 litres in about 6 hours.
Oh, that's really good. I think your system's higher than mine. but I'm literally just on mains pressure. So at the moment I've got mine outside. I
Mine's
collect
on a
my
booster.
good water in like a 100-litre water container, and then at the moment I'm pumping that indoors into storage indoors, but at some point I'm actually going to move the unit indoors. Spotless water, then, what spotless water is it's like a petrol station for reverse osmosis water. You can go with your containers to a spotless water outlet, put your card in, so you need an account, put your card in, pull the petrol pump thing out and fill up your container with reverse osmosis water. I think it works out at around 4p a litre. Hi, John. I think it works out at about 4p a litre. So I've seen a lot of LFSs, local fish shops, selling Caridina on tap water, and it really frustrates me because they bring them in, they've got them on their tap water, and out they go, and then you've got the problem.
They only have the
Because
short term, so short term, they're going to be okay in tap water.
Yeah.
Until you get them home and put them in tap water, and then you're like, why am I not getting many babies? I mean, don't get me wrong. There is for instance, if you live in an area with really soft water and maybe possibly only 1 kh, which is not common in the UK.
Yeah. You can keep them.
You could keep them, but they won't thrive long term. The lifespan's also shorter.
One of the lads in one of the groups in Scotland, really good water, exactly like you said, Rob, one kh, and he decided to change over onto RO water, and he said they were all right, but they weren't really booming, and he changed over onto RO.
This is to Jeff. Said I could use a wastewater in Matanginaki and Malawi. That's exactly what I do, and then repump it back up through a dechlorinator, just to take out the main particles, and it seems to be working great. So I'm not wasting any water.
So Keith's just mentioned something. I'm not actually looking at comments, guys. I've got two phones. The other thing with tap water is you don't know what that composition of that really good tap water with 1 kh is. You know, you might have tap water with 5 GH, 1 kh, which would be ideal. Yeah. Me and Rob both went prior to this, and we had a look on our water company's testings, and we got sort of readouts. I might have mine. I might be able to get mine actually. And
I was very shocked at mine.
I was shocked at yours. Yours was 10 times worse than mine, and mine's bad.
Very, very hard water as well.
And you've got sort of cyanide and mercury and all sorts in yours.
Yeah. That's why I don't drink tap. That's why I only drink.
I'm pretty sure, Kaz, that I can't think who it was, but they said as soon as they switch from tap to RO, the difference was.
I spent over £600 on shrimp, being a newbie, and look what happened to me. How many of them shrimp have I got left? None of them. That was £665 worth.
Because you weren't told the right things.
No, I wasn't. But that was my own fault. I should have thoroughly researched. But back then, there wasn't tons of information on Caridina. It was all German.
Yeah.
Relatively new. I mean, Caridina, when it came around in the UK, around about, they had a little thing in 2009, and I think it was 2015, 2016, 2017, something like that.
Where it picks up again. So, I say we're advocates. I use it for my neos as well, and I just think that it's the basis point. You know, if you set up a marine tank, would you use tap water in your marine tank?
No.
And corals are probably as sensitive as some Caridina species.
Arrow water we've redone with salt to the correct salinity.
Absolutely. And I think people just automatically accept that you'd use RO for salt water, whereas with Caridina, you know, you see a shop with them in a tank on tap water. A lot of the shops are only interested in quick turnaround. I'm not saying they all are, and there are some good ones out there. One of my local fish shops sells A grade, which is probably one of the lower grades, A grade crystals for £9.95 each, and they're on tap water. So a tenner a shrimp on tap water, and people are going to see them, see the colour of them, buy them, put them in the tank, and they die, and it kills the hobby because people are like, they're too hard to keep, they're too hard to keep, they died. Last time I tried them, they died. So I'll probably stop on that one now.
Okay.
I'll probably stop on that one now, and we'll do a
circumstances.
We'll do a Q&A on RO, and now I'll go into comments.
Oh, I need to move. It's ramping up. It's getting old. Okay, let's go. Right, I'm up to GLP shrimp. I personally wouldn't even buy shrimp from shops. I see where you're coming from there, but when I went in Wharf Aquatics, their actual shrimp section, all their Caridina shrimp are all on active soil. So me being me, I asked the guy, and he said, yeah, they're on our remineralized, and they used what's the one, Salty B.
Yeah.
And even the Zebra was on tiger parameters. They had they were using some sort of soil, but like Glenn uses for his tigers. And I was quite surprised to shop. I thought, that's the first shop I've actually been in. But I've got shrimp in the correct parameters, and the Caridina on sand and blah blah, so on and so forth.
That's true. That is, Karen. I'm pretty sure I might even have a picture. I might even have a picture of the shrimp and the price, and they're in with Neos. They're in the same tank as Neos. They're on tap water. He's got a system where he's got all his shrimp and stuff, and they're a tenner a piece. Yeah.
You take them £12 shrimp home. You've really got to like drip them for quite a while to acclimate them from the water they're probably on to the water they're going to be on, which is the grit water. So, for instance, for you to acclimate shrimp, you're looking at 2 to 3 hours of drip acclimating before you could even add the shrimp to said tank, what's done with actual RO water.
And what damage has already been done while they've been in that storage?
Unfortunately, they've shortened.
You know, water's got elements of copper.
Just literally a plant trace. Yeah, Neos, I drink Neos, Jeff, long time as well.
Yeah, and I do, Jeff. We've got I think we've got a section on acclimation.
Yep.
I think we've got a section on acclimation. I can't remember. It might be on the. No, it's in this one, I think. So okay, any more questions on RODI or spotless water? So John did say that it's about £5 for every 100 litres on spotless water.
Yeah.
Because it's so wasteful. If you're on a water meter, as a lot of people in the UK are, it's, unless you're collecting that waste and reusing that waste for something else, it's probably not cost effective, especially if you've only got 1 or 2 tanks. I'd imagine at some point everybody in the UK will be on a water meter, because the whole of the UK is, I'm starting to get political here. The whole of the UK is just about how much more can they rinse you out of?
They aren't controlling me. They already control my gas and electric with a little stupid smart meter. They aren't controlling anything else.
I haven't got that. They keep messaging me saying, you haven't fitted your smart meter. It'll save you money. It won't save me money because it'll save them money. The only way it'll save
getting
The only
comfy.
way it'll save me money is if I use less electric, and I use the electric I use. I use the gas that I use. If it's cold, I put the heating on. You know. So anyway, I'm going to come off the politics.
Jeff says. They're doing London.
Yeah, I think London and the South are all metered. My friend was working in Birmingham and Coventry.
Birmingham.
Yeah, my mate was. He'd got a job, and what his job was he had to go and lift all the stopcocks and see how many houses they fed and fill it in on a graph. So luckily, one stopcock here runs 4 houses, so they won't meter us unless they dig the whole road up.
Yeah.
Water wise, so it's not cost effective for them to meter us at this point.
Unfortunately.
So we're all ready for our next section then.
Are you aware?
We me and Rob had a bit of a we did a test go live with this yesterday, and there's a purpose about me putting TDS or not TDS, and
that is the question.
So the reason I put this is, do you need a TDS pen to keep Caridina? No, you don't. If you follow the instructions on your remineralization, salt or liquid or whatever you use, and you get that water to 5GH, that's all you need to get to. From the point of mixing, TDS it means nothing. You know, I know that getting my water change water to 150, and it is 150. It is 150, Gavin. Gives me a GH of 5. 100% it does, and I've tested it over and over again. So GH of 5, and then as long as you're maintaining your water changes, and we'll come to that as well, you don't need a TDS pen. Sticking a TDS pen in a tank, my daughter always rings when I'm in the live, always. Sticking a TDS pen in a tank only guides you if you need to change water or how frequently, and we'll come to that. So GH of 5, KH of 0, follow the instructions on your
minerals
remineralization of choice. So there's a few on the market. Me and Rob both use a particular brand, the liquid ones, just because there's no mixing. They're liquid, and we just find them better. Now, Gavin's saying that GH5 for him is 120. So I've recalibrated my pen. I've set to 150. I've set to 120, and 120 gives me 4GH. But I'm not using LC. I'm using +1. So I'm using a slightly different remineralizer to you, Gav.
You'll get 5 off that.
On 150.
Yeah.
I tested it at 120, and I was getting. The reason I was really, I went through a mad phase of testing all my tanks GH.
Don't go.
And
do not go TDS crazy. Don't just TDS.
It weren't TDS. I tested the GH, and some of my tanks were at GH3. So I've had to gradually increase the GH of my tanks, and the white shrimp were losing their white because the GH was too low. So they're all back up at 5. I tested and tested and tested. I don't use the low conductivity one, Gavin, and just because I'm using up stuff that's out of date. And 145 would just start to change colour, but 150 definitely changed colour.
Very interesting.
So TDS, and I think in the early days, people get obsessed with TDS. TDS isn't the important. I mean, it's relevant, but it isn't. GH5 is more, and pH, the right pH, is
Yeah,
more important. Is more important
very
than
little,
TDS.
zero kh.
Caridina aren't difficult to keep. They need stability. They need a good environment and stability. It's as simple as that. So, have you got anything else to say on TDS, Rob? Or
If I was to say one thing on TDS, which would be very important, don't go TDS crazy, because when you tend to get a TDS pen, you're testing your tap water. I've even been known to test Diet Coke. I was just curious to see the TDS pen.
of course there is.
Because it's science, and
Yeah.
I was quite shocked at a lot of things, and it made me question a few things. And then I went a bit TDS crazy, and I was forever checking my tanks. And if I got a little increase, I was like, oh. And I was always thinking it has to be at that. And what I did wrong, my tanks went to 160. My GH was still at 5. 160. So there was obviously extra, and that was to do with adding the trace 1, fulvic acid, the fulvic D, which all them. If you add all them powders, they increase because they're putting something into the water.
Oh yeah, there's there's waste, there's poop, there's breakdowns of soils, there's
Soils give off
hormones, pheromones that the shrimp give off. There's loads. So I did exactly the same thing when I started keeping them. I chased TDS, and it wasn't until I realised that you don't need to chase TDS. You need stability.
Now and then check. Or when you're remineralising your arrow water to put back in, check them.
Yeah, that's it. Only time I use that. I occasionally test the tanks now, but it's rare. And we'll come to why I do that on one of the other questions. So let me go to. I'm going to find the banners again. Bear with me. It's right at the bottom. This one. So remineralising and TDS, we've already sort of stated, I think, that you need to set your GH to 5. Some shrimp species like a little bit lower, some like a little bit higher, but between 4 and 6. And I always aim for 5 on all my species. I always aim for 5 on all of my species. I was going to say something and it slipped my mind. It was about, I remineralize and then I leave my remineralization bin or bucket or whatever you're going to use. I leave that to settle and get to room temp because I heat my room, not my tanks or my water. So if you are remineralizing and you're bringing in cold water from outside, it's advisable to sort of get that to a similar temperature. I leave an air stone in it so it's circulating, but obviously I've got water storage. Theoretically, you could remineralize and put it straight back in. There's nothing stopping you doing that. We've got a section on sort of water changes a bit later, so I'll cover that in there. But I remineralize and I let it stand and circulate with an air stone. The reason I let it circulate is so it doesn't become stagnant or things fall to the bottom and you're testing the top.
Arrow water left after a long time can become very smelly, as I found out.
Oh, I've got some in bins outside that need emptying.
They can create a stink.
So should we do? So Gavin said, let's go through. I'll go through a few of these comments actually. So John says some of the Asian GH mineralizes get GH5 at 100 TDS.
Yeah, I know.
I've got the SL1, and to be honest, I've never tested the GH and
140 GH5 I got from that.
On 140 TDS.
Yeah, which I thought was
yes.
good.
Okay. So Karen said something that's everyone sort of seen. Everyone who's in the chat uses Qual Drop, I think. So when I test my TDS, I always do it before I add any. I fill my bin up. I put my minerals in. I test that before I add anything else. So I want my GH to be 5 before I add things like trace elements, and I also use Rich One additives. I think we've got a section on additives as well. But so I always make sure that my TDS is right before I add any additional stuff to that bin, such as trace elements and humic and fulvic acids and stuff like that. So John said needs test with a kit. Gavin says he uses Qual Drop. Needs test with a kit. Keith said the only thing you need to test for TDS is the water you're purifying. Yeah, so good point actually. Good point actually, Keith. So yeah, something we missed, and Keith's actually picked that up. So your RO unit doesn't need changing. They should last up to 2 years for your membrane, but your pre-filter, your carbon filter, and any deionizing resin need changing on a regular basis.
3 to
And
6 months.
I tend to do my pre and carbon every 3 months. I didn't. I might have a video on one that I left for 12 months, and you wouldn't drink that water, trust me. But and my deionizing resin, I've got color changing, so I can see when it needs changing. It sort of changes color up the chamber, and that's the other thing you'll use your TDS pen for. So you'll test your RO water, and if your RO water's gradually increasing, you know, I tend to change when I'm close to 10 TDS out the RO unit. I'll change filters.
You want an RO unit because you're clued up on your.
It's got one.
Oh. Well, then I'll set you smoke some Caridina if you set a tank up.
That's already been discussed. He said he'd spend forever sitting in front of it, culling for a particular line. I says that's the whole point.
Selective breeding.
Love it. Okay, so I think we've done remineralization. So just quick recap then. We both in agreement on RO water or spotless water, roady water, you know, whatever you want to call that, and remineralizing to 5GH. You don't need a TDS pen for that if you follow the instructions on your bottle or your tub. And what I would do is, if I was using salts, I'd weigh it, because I think the instructions give you weight of salt to literage.
I used to weigh mine.
So a small set of Colombian marching scales.
One Pablo.
Yeah, you need some of those Pablo Escobar scales, but I've actually got a couple of pair. I bought some really cheap ones for. I wanted to dose Panacea to a tank that the only ever time I'd got planaria, and I'd calculated that I needed 0.08 of a gram, and I thought these scales went down to 0.08 of a gram, so I weighed out 0.08 of a gram, and I actually weighed 0.8 of a gram. So I dosed this tank with 10 times the amount of Panacea that will kill snails and shrimp and everything. Shrimp were a bit funky. They didn't die, never lost any, never lost. I took my nerites out, never lost any. Oh no, I didn't have nerites. I never lost any ram's horns, and I never lost a couple of assassin snails either.
Yeah, that's exactly what I did, Karen, with salt. 24 hours to stew and to settle. Yeah,
dissolve fully and recirculate. And
because what you start with is not the one you get at the end with salty shrimp.
I do use salty shrimp for my neos.
Takes time for it to dissolve.
But because I've only got the 2 tanks, I only mix 23 litres, but I use I take 10% out, so I'll probably use 9. 11.
Hello, anyone what's not speaking? You're doing that. You can't buy it now, Planaria.
Jeff's don't put the wrong powder with the Pablo Escobar scales. The shrimp, them would be turbo. They'd be turbo shrimp. I would. You'd have you'd have snails with flames coming out the back of them as they're buzzing round the tank.
Oh, let's get on it.
Yeah, no Planaria for anyone that doesn't know. The company that makes No Planaria are no longer trading, so any No Planaria that's on the market is all that you that they'll be, once that's gone, it's gone. Dave, I can't think of the name of them. It's they're a Chinese company. Biomax. There's another name for them though. In fact, let me have a look. They do trade as Biomax. GenChem.
Mine's a couple of years old.
Yeah, GenChem, but the trade name is.
Free. If you need it, I can send you some Panacea. I have a full sachet. I can tell you the correct dosage and everything like that to treat your tank where it won't kill shrimp or fish or snails. But the Planaria load, I say you'll have to remove Planaria.
Yeah, fendembendazole or something.
Yeah, I've got some.
It's it works. It definitely works. Shrimp go a bit funky if you overdose it times 10, but it didn't kill.
I can work out the dosage with you.
It didn't kill them.
Yeah, no problem.
So, cool. Breeding might increase. No, Jeff, because they'd get brewer's droop thing.
Brewer's droop.
So this is
in gallons or litres?
We can do both actually. So because I know we've got some people watching from the US. So I'll talk about what I do, and then I'll talk about not to do what I do. So
very hot in here.
Oh, my AC's gone off actually. So 10 UK gallon, which is 45 to 50 litres, would be the recommended minimum size for Caridina. Now I use some 25 litres, but they're for colony starters, and I monitor the water in those quite strictly. So they get looked after differently to my 10 gallon or 45 litres. And the reason 10 is because, as we've already mentioned, stability is key, and parameters change slower in a 10 UK gallon, 45 litre and above.
More problems will arise. Bigger the tank, less problems because it's more settled.
And that goes for every part of aquatics, really.
Yeah.
You know, if you get an ammonia spike in a small tank, it's going to be up. If you get an ammonia spike in a huge tank, it's going to be slow. Or slower because it's more diluted.
Yeah.
So minimum tank size, 45, 50 litres, which I think equates to about 11.5 US gallons.
12 gallons.
Yeah, I think 12 US gallon, 10 UK gallon. Hi, Sweet Acres Koi.
Hello.
So tank size, I think we're both in agreement. As I mentioned, I do use a few 5 gallon. I'm in the process of moving my colony starters out, and those 5 gallon tanks will be specifically for selecting a couple of males, a couple of females, and that will all that goes in that tank to try and use what I've selected to breed genetic traits. So that, you know, but I wouldn't recommend anything smaller than 10 UK gallon, 50 litres, 45, 50 litres.
I mean, I do use, as you know, I do use some 25 litres with pretty much good success. What I put the success to down in them is I've got plants in there to absorb the nitrates,
No,
extra nitrates and whatnot, and they're all double filtered. I always over filter because I think the more filtration, the better it is, and for me, it works.
yeah, I mean, that brings us nicely to that second part. Caridina shrimp don't like flow. They don't
No,
like a lot of flow. They like a gentle flow, which sort of lends itself nicely to
just watch you take the water.
air-driven filtration. You know, there's loads of different types: sponge filter, double sponge filter, under gravel box, you know, under gravel filter box, Matten filters, Matten towers, stuff like that. And I don't really have a favourite. John, who's on, I think John uses double sponges in every tank, and that's all John uses. So you don't need you don't need to go mad. I do in most of my tanks have 2 filters, so I'll have like 2 single filters or an under gravel filter box and a sponge filter. And the reason I do that is because my original plan for having 2 filters in every tank was to run 2 air pumps, so that if one of my air pumps went down, I'd still have filtration going in that tank. That was the original plan. It hasn't worked out that way, but what it has done is I've got an under gravel filter or a Matten or something like that and a sponge filter in pretty much every tank, not all of them. And the reason I do it is because if my tank needs a reset, and we'll talk about that when we get to another section, if my tank needs a reset, I can take, for example, my UGF box out, cycle that in a bucket with new soil or whatever I want to do with that, and put it back in, and I've still got filtration. I don't need to move the shrimp out because I've already got a sponge filter in there. The other benefit.
Glenn, you carry on. I'm just gonna go to the toilet.
No worries.
My toilet's downstairs.
The other benefit of having I've lost my train. The other benefit of having 2 filters as well is that I've got a spare filter if I want to set up another tank quickly. So if I need to set up a tank quickly, I can pull a sponge filter out of a tank that's been going ages, give it a bit of a squeeze out in RO water to give it a clean, and I've got a cycled filter ready to go into a new tank straight away. I think we've got a section on soils, and sometimes I use ammonia leaching soils and sometimes I don't. But tank size and filtration, I'll get some feedback from the other guys, but for me, there's nothing wrong with having a double sponge filter in a Caridina tank, because that's all you need. You don't need to go mad. So I use 2 because I've got multiple tank syndrome, and it's just easier for me to sort of run that. So let's do a few comments while Rob's nipped out.
Robbie's back. Go on, carry on. Sorry about that, guys. I'm at that age now where I can't hold it in.
So hi Jeff, hello David, hi David. Sounds like a plan, Jeff. Yay. So Karen says UGF box and sponge. I hear if you use undergrab filter, your shrimp get legs like Chris Boardman. Chris Boardman, a cyclist.
Yeah.
Dave says, man, I had the worst day at work today outside, 30 degrees all day. I just walked in the shower and dead. Hope you guys are well.
28 Celsius, so it's 28 degrees in here.
I'm 22 in here.
My tanks are sitting should be at 25, but so I've had to take all my lids off.
I'm at 22 because I'm. In fact, I'll switch that on. I've got my AC comes on and off as it needs to in here.
David,
You got to buy an AC unit. It's got to be done. So Jeff says Dave's 36 in the fish room. Jeff says he keeps lots of spares in tank. Works great. Karen says same to you, Jeff. Boxes cycling at all time. Aquarium addiction is real. It certainly is. Dave, hey Glenn, I hear you. Can you supply me with some anti-snail juice? What snails?
Do you know the triple G snail killing stuff?
Maybe.
Have you got some?
Maybe. I think I've got one left.
It went on mine.
Let's have a look.
Fish safe, shrimp, but it kills snail. It also kills the babies. Yeah, they are.
Yeah, they do a snail remover. Obviously, be aware that if you kill snails, they're going to have that's the food.
Come in a funky little tin.
That's the food.
Yeah, this is the food. I love it, mate. Really good food, Asian style.
Just obviously remember that if you're killing loads of snails in your tank, it's gonna affect the bioload in your aquarium as well.
Very true.
Gavin, biggest success has been in tanks 35 litre and now using 45.
35, 45, yeah. You can go small, but as long as you've got to keep on top of water changes.
I insulated Dave with, so it's a single brick outside wall. I put 50mm Kingspan. That's made from where Rob lives. So 50mm Kingspan on the outside walls, 100mm in the ceilings, and 50mm on the inside wall, although there's another garage next to that. And then the door that you can see in front of me is literally just a wooden door and an insulated roller shutter garage door. So that's the outside back there. But I have sealed all around that door with proper draft excluder stuff. So I've got an AC unit that also doubles up as a heat pump, so it heats in the winter and cools in the summer. And it's on behind me, and that's why I've got the headset on, because the headset's noise cancelling. You won't hear it. You told me when I was building I needed AC. You do, yeah. 100% you do. If I had my time again and the money, I'd have had a proper AC unit fitted. So I've got a portable at the moment. It's I don't want to. Can I show you? I don't know if it'll go down far enough. Oh, shaking. So that's this here is my AC unit, and I can move it around. I've had to raise it up. I built like a trolley for it. So that's my AC unit, but it also cools as well. And it's controlled by a little, I've got a video coming out in the next couple of weeks called Connected Room or something. So it's called Connected Room. Yeah, I'd go for one with the external condenser, 100%. If I could redo the room, that's what I'd do. I'd have it condenser on the roof and a proper AC in here, and I'd just set it. So
David secondhand, I've seen quite a few. on Facebook Marketplace.
They're not expensive anyway. You could buy Mitsubishi external condenser, internal unit, but you have to have it fitted by a professional, and that's where the money is. I can actually buy a proper AC unit cheaper than the portable one, but you've got to pay a professional because you're working with refrigerant gases. So anyone got any questions on
overnight? I'd leave the zucchini in overnight. It's always full in the morning with snails. Aquarium delirium knows. You can make snail captures.
Have you guys seen these? Let me find one.
Well, find one blame.
I'm trying to remember where stuff is.
Bait, I bet you keep could have pulled it off and got you it cheap. Brought him 12 fish.
See them?
Yeah, 12 hours is good, Jeff. When I said overnight, I mean that's if you put it in on a night for the next morning. If you put it in at night, ready for the next morning, there's no catches. A good way of keeping control of your population. But the main thing with snails, don't overfeed tanks. But then if you've got a tank full of fry, you're going to overfeed because you overfeed fry. And the snails eat it and keep it clean. I like snails personally. I don't like Malaysian trumpets. I like ram's horns or rabbit snails.
Yeah, I don't mind ram's horns. My biggest problem's limpets.
I've got limpets.
Limpets
in my shrimp tanks.
Okay, should we go on to the next one?
Yes, fire away. I'm just in the background having a cigarette, so I'm not on camera.
So, active soils is our next subject, and
mystery have only just become legal again in the year. Not last year before.
RO units produce water with no GH and KH. We already know that we're remineralizing, so we're putting GH back in, but with no KH to stabilize pH, you need another way of stabilizing the pH in your tank. And this is where active soils come in. So an active soil is a soil or a substrate that will buffer to a specific pH. Different soils on the market buffer to different pHs, and it will depend on what shrimp, on what Caridina, softwater Caridina you're keeping, as to what soil will work best for you. So in the main, most of the Caridina, but not all of the Caridina that I keep, are between 5.5 and 6 pH. Not all of them, most of them. With your active soils, you get two types. You get leaching and non-leaching. So a leaching soil will give off ammonia in the initial phases of its life. So that will need cycling until the ammonia is completely gone. Non-leaching soils don't give off an ammonia, but still need cycling either with an ammonia source. Personally, I don't cycle with an ammonia source for Caridina. If I've got a soil that leaches ammonia, that's my ammonia source. If I've got a soil that doesn't leach ammonia, I literally add bacters. So I add a bacterial powder. I'm in the process of going through a new one at the moment, but I'll add a bacterial powder and I'll let that tank run until I see a couple of things. So one of them is copepods, which are little tiny aquatic animals zooming around the tank, and the other one is an abundance of algae. Once I've got both of those, I'll put shrimp in. A cycled tank isn't as good as an aged tank for moving Caridina into. So if if you've got an ammonia leaching soil and it takes 8 weeks to cycle, 10 weeks, 12 weeks would be better for that. So the longer you can sort of leave it, and you can keep adding bacters to it every week, building up the bacters and the bacterial count and stuff like that in there. But an aged tank is better than a cycled tank.
Age is key. Nice and aged. Lots
so
of the shrimp.
A couple of soils to talk about. I'll talk about stuff that I do and don't sell. So Tropica soil, so Tropica plant soil, surprised me because it is an active soil and it actually gives me quite a low pH. So at the moment I've got my orange eye blue tigers on it, breeding prolifically. Sorry, Kaz, breeding prolifically at the moment on there. They're about to be moved into a bigger tank actually, but I'm sort of moving stuff around. Tropica soil, I've never tested if it leaches ammonia, so I don't know. SL Aqua, more black soil, doesn't leach ammonia, but it gives a slightly higher pH, 5.7, 5.9. I've just moved stuff out of one a year later that was at 5.9. But a lot of people who will do a liquid test saying it's 6, it's giving me 6 or higher than 6. Mine definitely isn't. It's under 6 just after a year. So I quite like the SL. It's a nice dark soil. Environment soil. So I'm in the process of changing my tanks over to a 50-50 mix, nearly a 50-50 mix. Half on SL, half on environment soil. Now environment gives a low pH, 5.5 or less.
Great soil, glass garden.
Yeah, the colour's not as nice as the dark soils. That's why I don't use it so much. It's not as nice as.
Speaking, it's not the best looking soil, but for longevity,
it works. It works. It works.
It's really the best.
It does work. ADI Amazonia V1 or Gold
Yes.
was probably the best on the market, but ADI have stopped making it. Can't get it. A bizarre one that you've probably never seen or heard of is Aquael Help shrimp soil. So both myself and Rob have used it. I've never sold any. I had 3 bags. Rob had 1 or 2, and I've used the other 1 or 2. And both of us have never lost the shrimp on it.
Been my most
Brilliant
successful soil, and I've got a tank set up now, and it's coming up to month 18, and it's my dragon blood tank. It's just, I've emptied that tank twice of shrimp as well. Emptied, took everything out, not the soil, left the soil in. Still shrimp in there again.
Still buffering.
Still, oh yeah, yeah. I get, what is it? I was getting 5.8. I was getting. If I tested it now, it'd probably be 5.8 still. I can tell.
Yeah,
I can tell just
good soil that. So I'm sort of concentrating on selling
bigger bags.
Yeah, they only do 3 litre bags. That's the downside.
Bags.
So SL soil are getting 3. You can get it in 1 litre bags, but I can get it in 3 litre and 8 litre. And the glass carton is 9 litre bags. That's all I get in the glass carton. Seachem bought a brand out called Aqua Vitro, and as part of their Aqua Vitro range, they did a soil called Aqua Solum. It only come in small 2 kilo bags, but it's a really good soil. And again, a non-leaching soil. Now none of the soils I currently sell are leaching, but the Aquael Help soil leaches a small amount of ammonia.
Yeah.
So it's a quick. Thanks, Jeff. It's a quick. It doesn't leach heavy. ADA Amazonia leaches loads of ammonia,
Well,
and it takes
8 to 12 weeks sometimes.
8 to 12 weeks to cycle.
Yeah,
because it's just got that much ammonia in it.
It's just the best soil ever. If you want a good pH, longevity,
just can't get it. So the last thing about active soils really is they've got a lifespan. So at some point they're going to stop buffering the soil, and you'll notice if you're testing your pH, as you get into Caridina keeping, you start to you can look at a tank and know something's not right. But that's the same with all aquatics, I think. You can look at something and think something's not right in there. There's a smell, they're not acting right, they're lethargic, there's loads of things. And sort of keeping an eye on your, knowing the longevity of the soil. I think I've got a video on soils and how long I think they last. So knowing the longevity of the soil, or a rough idea, if someone says that soil lasts about 12 months, at sort of 10 months, you want to be testing the pH and knowing where it was when you started and where it is when you finish, which is why I date all my tanks. When I reset a tank, I put a date on it, and that date, I put the date and the name of the soil. So I know that in 18 months time, 12 to 18 months time, I'm going to need to change that tank. In two years time, I'm going to need to change that tank. So there's, yeah, but if you do it right, Keith, it's easy. I'll come back to the comments. So they need resetting. So every so often they'll need resetting. Now, as we mentioned, there are ways to reset a tank without taking shrimp out.
Yes.
There's ways to do that. So I use UGF boxes.
Pre-cycle UGF boxes. Pre-cycle
just swap them out.
Filter it, swap off out, fill it up.
Job done, yeah.
Bit of bacteria.
Where they get difficult, where resetting a tank gets difficult, is if you've got a sponge filter and a massive thick amount of soil on the bottom. But even with a thin amount of soil, so an Asian method is a thin amount of soil, reset every 6 months, but you literally just siphon the soil off and put some cycled soil in. So cycle the soil somewhere else, or in a bucket or wherever, and tip that.
That's a UGF for anyone not knowing what UGF stands for, undergravel filter. It's an undergravel filter in a box. Basically, that box is buffering the soil, because water's travelling through it. You get a more stable pH.
Yeah, it's filled with soil. So it's filled with active soil, and then you only need a thin layer on the bottom of the tank. So you can easily just suck that thin layer off, add a new layer, and swap your box out. They're not hard. I mean, if you've got multiple tanks, they're easy, because you always keep a spare tank moving. so they get pretty easy. So let's go to questions then on that. I'm not gonna exhaust that anymore.
Questions, because active soil is one of the most important things.
Environment, I think it's been 8. Have you got a tank that's 8 years old on environment, Karen?
There you go, Keith.
Karen's got a tank. Karen's got a tank that's 8 years on environment soil.
8 years?
That's what she says.
I can believe it.
I say Karen, it's Kaz, isn't it?
It's not Karen, it's Kaz.
It's Kaz, yeah. I keep saying Karen because it comes up Karen here. Keith says that it would stress him out knowing that he has to reset one.
I'm Yorkshire Water. Are you Yorkshire Water as well, David? Because I'm Yorkshire Water, and mine's like in liquid nails.
Keith, I've got a tank here on master soil.
And you've been using 3 years, Glenn, you plump pot.
It's a year old. Oh, she's been using it for 8 years. So it's a year old, and the pH is 7,
Water.
and the shrimp are still breeding, and those shrimp should be at 5.5. And as much as they're stressing me out that they're on pH 7, I need another tank to cycle. Stability, that they've gradually got to 7, and that they're breeding at 7. When I move them, I'm going to need to acclimate them really slowly because I'm putting them in 5.5
That will
where
be
they
a long.
should be.
That will be a long drip acclimation. That.
Oh,
It'll
it'll
have
be
to wait.
horrendous. So I'm trying to get them from 7 pH to 5.5 pH over about 8 hours.
Come on then, guys. Give us some questions on regarding active soils. What do you want to know, or what do you already know? Which is your favourite?
Well,
Which do you like
Keith's
the least?
Keith's got a question. He said, in theory, if he had a UGF box, he could use gravel. The idea of a UGF box for Caridina
I'm going to
is
say
that
something here.
you've got water passing through the soil, Keith. So you're sort of supercharging the soil. But yeah, you could use a UGF box as a gravel filter. Of course you could. But for Caridina, the purpose of a UGF box is so that instead of the water just being in contact with a base layer of soil, you're actually passing it through the soil and sort of turbocharging the soil.
That's gravel and then a sponge filter underneath. But look, all the mold build up inside it, and then every so often I'll take it out and empty the mold. You get no mold. When you're using a UGF box, you get no mold in the tank. Oh, for some reason, all goes in the UGF. Interesting.
And then Dave says, in Yorkshire, buffer is not a problem. We get 6.2 out of the tap of the Peat Hills. The 6.2 is high for Caridina, unless you're keeping tigers, but
The tigers would be okay on that.
But it's what else is in your, it's what else is in your tap water.
Go on the website of your local water company and check out yourself. They have to provide it goes in.
Theoretically, Keith, yeah, there's nothing stopping you doing that because your soil filter would be a UGF.
UGF, yeah. Which would work. Old school. Remember the tanks where they used to have the underground filters all the way along the bottom, the big trays with the 2 pipes? You could either put air or you could fit a power head if you was fancy. But what a mess in a tank out.
So Jeff says if they're breeding at 7, isn't it easier to keep 7 than 5.5? It's more about baby survival, Jeff, because they're not intended to be on 7. So I've seen a few babies in there, whereas in reality there should be hundreds.
Yeah, where you get few, not the many.
Yeah, they're not, and if you've got good tap water, that's probably the same. So they'd probably survive, and they may even breed, but they won't prosper. And it's like I'm trying to sort of think of it's like, would you keep a parrot in a budgie cage? That sort of type scenario. So and I'm stressing my head about the fact that they're on 7 pH. They're on 6.9, but I'm really stressing about it. It's really pickling my head. But I'm another 2 weeks to cycle the tank that I want to move them to.
Patience.
They're literally just going to have to wait. And
patience is key.
I'm not losing them, but they are lethargic. They're not as active as they were. So
a shrimp could stand still when it's not happy. Shrimps are usually always moving.
That tank, if I put a stick of food in on feeding day, it would be swarmed. Now there's a couple jumping on it. They're just lethargic. I can just tell. I can just tell they're not right. They're decent shrimp as well, which is even more annoying. But once they're moved, they're going on to environment, so I'll get a couple of years out of that at least.
Can I join in the chat? Yeah.
You froze, Rob.
I'm here. Yeah.
So you screen. Oh no, it's come back. Yeah, it's definitely your end, Rob.
We're back up full now, so
Yeah, that's it. You're
lit in
back.
a bit.
So we've already sort of mentioned this one a little bit about Bacters and cycling. So if you're cycling a tank, ammonia source or non-ammonia source, you need to add a bacterial source. Proprietary Bacters I've been using up until now. So Qualdrop Bacters, PS Bacter, Biobacter, Bionitro. They're all much of a muchness. PS Bacter I really like because it's photosensitive bacteria. So I believe it gives you better algae, but at the moment I'm trialing with great success. I might add it's not cheap, but Kaz and John who are in the chat put me onto this, and it's a big pack, but it's a biofilm builder as well, and I'm loving it. I'm absolutely loving it. So that's called what's called Shrimp's Affair Setup Powder, but I believe I know it's repackaged Tai Cheng Dead Shrimp Powder. It's exactly the same stuff. It's not cheap, but it's a big pot, whereas you get sort of a little pot of 30 gram or whatever of a normal back, so that's like 100 gram, but it's about 3.5 times the price of the 30 gram. But
You've got.
I'm not sure if it's. I think it's you that's going, Rob, because I can see me on both screens, clapping and moving, but you keep freezing.
Am I okay now?
Yeah, you're back. A little bit. Picture's cleared now. So Bacters and cycling, we've sort of already covered cycling. The reason I put this in is because I really wanted to sort of push home the fact that an aged tank is better than a cycled tank.
I've got Michelin's for you, Keith, if you want some.
I can send you mixed as well.
No charge.
So Bacters, there's loads of them on the market. I could probably put my hand on 10. There's another one, SL Aqua Milli 1. I've got all of the different Qualdrop ones. I've got Dead Shrimp Powder. I'm trying to think if I got any others. But there's various different ones on the market. I say there's a specific few that I sell. Oh, there's Qualdrop Shrimp Bacter as well that smells like a sweet shop. It's worth buying a 10 gram pack just for the smell.
I don't have no pink, Keith, actually. It's 0. It's to do with my Wi-Fi, and then there's a big steel beam in the middle of the house, and it just.
So I'm happy we've done cycling. It's probably a really short one. So Q&A, and let's do some comments. Oh, sorry. Yes, Jeff, 7ish, the holy grail of breeding. So Keith says he might set up a Michelin tank. We've actually got mixed tanks for part 2, and the need for a mixed tank to start with a mixed tank, but Karen says she's seen a huge difference since she's been using DSP, and she's used magic powder before. That one. Yeah, magic powder. Which is sort of a magic powder is like a cross between a Bacta and a biofilm builder, I think. They had additional trace elements and stuff. So yeah, it's Rob. David, my update, wild type betters, hoping soon. Mal says Rob keeps playing Minecraft. Yeah, you keep freezing a bit, Rob.
Well, no, I can do. I've got a full signal.
His ping must be higher than my blood pressure. I doubt that, Keith. You'll get them, Jeff.
No, I don't see chat.
It was good earlier. Yeah, I think so. My fish, not Keith. I had 5 sets of egg, Jeff. Maybe have 3 not viable. An aquatic fanatic. So Keith says, is that what you guys recommend starting with?
There's all sorts of ways. Good question, really, because there's all sorts of ways of.
Yeah, I did. I started with a mixed tank. So the reason Michelins are a good starting point is because they're cheap or free, depending on where you get them from, and you learn a lot from that first tank. So I learned loads from that tank, and one of even now that I've got lots more tanks, my Michelin tank is still the one that intrigues me, because you see so many weird and wonderful crosses. Because unlike Neo Caridina, you cross 2 Caridina, they don't produce a wild type.
You've got a Tiger, Caridina, and a Crystal Red. You mix them both together, you get a Tiger mixed with a Crystal Red. The babies come out 50-50. Then the second generation, they come out even more funky.
Yeah. Rob had a green shrimp.
Yeah, I had a green shrimp Caridina.
A green Caridina shrimp, I've seen it.
Didn't last long though. Weird, strange.
I've kept Neos on my tap water's above.
Right, is my camera working all right now?
Yeah.
My
don't know.
2.4, isn't it?
2.4 gig. Can you switch on to the 5 gig network?
For some reason, that speaker behind me, if I switch that on, that affects the internet as well. That's the same width.
Well, put an extender plug in your room and connect to it at some point.
I just need to reconnect it. I will. I've got a TP link.
So I did, Keith, and so Rob gave me some Michelins for my first tank. So we'd been speaking. I'd done really good with Neos, like really good with Neos.
Anyone wanted to start out for free.
But he sent me something extra in the bag. So he sent me a bag of Galaxies, and I'd got nowhere to put them. So they ended up in the mixed tank. That mixed tank was on Ista soil. Do not, under any circumstances, use Ista soil for Caridina. You can, but change it after 3 months, because you'll need to, because it will lose its buffering. So Ista 5.5, it looks beautiful. I'd use it as a very thin base layer with a UGF box, but I wouldn't use it. I wouldn't use it as a soil. 6 months, it's gone. It's finished. 3 months, it's sort of gone. But yeah, I probably would recommend, but that's probably only because that's the route that I took. So you don't have to. If you understand water and you can get a stable environment, you can pretty much start with whatever you want. The reason people tend to go with Michelins is because they're either very cheap or very free. That would
It's that's basically what he's trying to say. They're not expensive. Well, if I give them to you, they'd be free. If anyone's willing to take the Caridina journey, I'm more than happy to start them up with some Caridina shrimp for free. Let me know when and where.
Yeah, you would, Dave. My water's about 450 TDS out the tap.
I've got blue velvets and Bloody Mary, no, fire reds.
I don't think you were on the first part, Dave. We'd said that both Rob and myself and a few people in here have said that you just can't keep Caridina on tap water. You might be able to keep them on very good tap water, but they won't prosper.
Short term, you'd have success, which is not good. Long term, it shortens the lifespan. You don't know what's in that tap water. Shrimp are very sensitive. That's as simple as it is, really.
But Neos, I've done good on my tap water. They've kept Neos very well on my tap water.
I keep my Neos on tap water. My hard tap water as well. But I've also kept Neos on softer water.
Tigers were always a good start too. Yeah. So tigers, going back to the soil bit, I never did well with tigers. Not fancy tigers, because obviously they're a hybrid, but I never did well with tigers, tangerine tigers, raccoon tigers, red tigers. And what I did was I found a different soil, and that soil gives 6.3 to 6.5 pH. It's called Blau Activa soil, and since I've used that for tigers, they've boomed. So I've got an experiment tank with mixed tigers in at the moment, and I tried to cross orange eye blue with wild red tigers, and in my first generation I got out wild tigers or tigers with black stripes, but in my second and third generations I've seen one, an orange eye tiger that's almost full cover rusty tigering, probably more wine clarity color, which was my original plan, to get sort of the underbelly is a very pale blue. So my original plan was to try and breed a shrimp. Keith's seen it. Was to breed a shrimp that's blue with red stripes and orange eyes, and I'm halfway there. You should be able to keep them on your water, Dave. Pintos, German spotted head pintos, absolutely adore them.
I believe Oliver, not nature soil, is just Shrimp King soil. Correct me if I'm wrong.
The Blau one?
No, the one Oliver not did or does. I don't know if it does it now, but I'm pretty sure it was the same stuff as Shrimp King started getting made through Denarel. They're not Denarel now. They've got their own brand, Natureholic.
It's all that 6.2's all right for Neos. Neos are a lot more forgiving than Caridina. But
I look at black shrimp and I have no idea if they are Neo or not. You can get black Neo Caridina.
It's more about your general hardness and your carbonate hardness. John's just put a good one up. So Dave's saying his pH is 6, his TDS is between 4 and 5, but his pH is 6. But it's more about your GH and your KH for Neos.
No KH is the best.
Because that 450 TDS could be low GH anyway.
Yeah.
You don't know what that TDS at the tap is made up of, is my point. So TDS doesn't tell you how hard your water is. TDS tells you
So
the
when
conductivity of your water.
when you've got that on and it says 000, you put it in and it starts reading a few numbers. First of all, you'll know there's something in your water.
But you don't know what.
But you don't know what.
So John's just put a good comment on. So he's put Bloodshots a super hardy and a good starter. So Bloodshots a cross between Wild Red and Tangerine Tiger.
Tangerines, yeah, cross between Red Tiger and Tangerines.
So it's an orange shrimp with like red dotting.
I'll take you over to Bloodshot.
So they're a good starter as well. Yeah, Sulawesi are hard water, aren't they? They're
not a very good picture, this is it.
Bloodshots. I'm miles behind with these comments. What shrimp would I need to cross to make my own galaxy line? Nobody knows. Can you answer that, Rob?
What's that?
Hi, Charlotte. Keith said, what shrimp would he need to cross to make his own galaxy line?
Galaxies, I think Black Fancy Tiger, I think so.
There's loads of variants that have come through multiple generations.
15 different ways you can get there, really.
And it'll take years.
And you're talking at the earliest F4, which is generation 4, up to 8. It would take you a long time. It's a long project. You're probably looking at 5 years, give or take.
Or more.
Yeah, maybe more. You've got to hold back, separate, hold back, cull, take this out, keep this in. Just to get the pattern up.
Quite ironically, our next subject was first Caridina shrimp type, where from and acclimation. So we've obviously discussed what would be good for your first shrimp. Based on what you're going to have for your first Caridina would determine how you were going to set the tank up, because as we mentioned, different soils give you different pHs. So if your first one was a tiger, let's say you went for red tigers, wild red tigers as an example, you'd want a soil that buffers to a higher pH than you would with a soil that will give you a low pH. If you're going for Michelins, then you're sort of already on the line of low pH soft water shrimp anyway, in the main.
I agree.
And then where from and acclimation. So I'm not going to say all shops are bad, because I'm a shop myself, but people who've
private breeders
put you in touch with other people, yeah. Like Rob, like Daniel, like Kaz, like Norbert, people like that.
Like Gavin.
Yep. You know, people that are recommended with lots of recommendations and feedback.
Yep.
You know, when you want to get your first shrimps, speak to me or Rob, and if they're Michelins, obviously Rob said he'll sort anybody out. If you want something different, ask, because we probably know where there are some. You know, I mean, don't get me wrong, your first shrimp, you're not going to go and buy £150, £5, £110, £150 each shrimp, and they can go up to. I know you have, yeah. I'm just tight.
Many months ago, guys, by the way.
So Rob actually stared at the tank for like 3 weeks because he'd bought shrimp that were over £100 each.
£150 a shrimp. A shrimp.
So yeah, breeders who are recommended. Breeders who are recommended. Don't be afraid of them being shipped. Ask the breeder if there's a DOA policy and what that is. I DOA all the stuff that I send out. Recommendations, I think, for your first one, your first shrimp. And then from an acclimation perspective, I've not been averse to drip acclimating at like 1 drip every 2 seconds until I've filled an orange bucket from a bag this big, because I test the water that they come in, and if it's vastly different to mine, I want, and especially if they're £150 a shrimp, I want to give them every possible opportunity. We mentioned that I've got shrimp at the moment. I'm desperate to move. Now they'll be on exactly the same water, the same salts, the same additives. The only thing different will be the soil and the pH. But I will probably start that drip at sort of 8, 9 o'clock in the morning. Well, it won't. I'll have to catch them first. I'll probably put an inch in an orange bucket, and then I will drip that very slowly until that bucket is at least 5 times the original content. I'm probably more likely to go to 3/4 of a bucket till the pH in that bucket is 5.6, 5.7 as a minimum. So I'm lowering that pH over 6, 7, 8 hours. And if the drip's really slow, I'm more than happy to drip overnight. Obviously, you've got to be careful it doesn't flood, but I'm more than happy to drip overnight. So for me, dripping and dripping and dripping for as long as possible is better. Once they're in mine, and I know I'm taking it from tank A to tank B, and they're similar parameters, I haven't got a problem catching them and dropping them straight in. I'll move stuff and drop it if the parameters are similar, because the flop and drop, yeah, plop and drop, because I know the parameters are quite similar. Cut out again, Rob.
Keeps going up.
Yeah, £1 bucket, B&Q, orange bucket. So first shrimp type, make that decision before you choose a soil. Are you going to keep Tigers, and you're going to keep Michelins? Are you going to keep Crystals? Are you going to keep fish bones? Rob's reconnecting. He's back. Are you going to keep fish bones, you know, and make that decision and plan it? Buy your soil, set your tank up, cycle it a bit more, and then get your shrimp in and drip acclimating them, you know. And if it takes 5 hours, it takes 5 hours. So plan it accordingly. What you will find, though, is most breeders only ship Monday to Wednesday, Monday to Thursday. It's very rare for people to ship on a Friday, because we always, anyone decent will always ship next day guaranteed, and obviously Saturday guarantees really expensive and it's not advisable. So again, if you're working, how do you plan that? You know, do you plan it around, it's going to take 10 weeks to cycle this tank and I'm off in September or October or whenever, so do it on the week where you're off. Or if they're local, sometimes people will deliver them or you can collect them. So there are breeders near you, Keith, as well, that we know. And I know you'll ship Saturday delivery. I wouldn't feel comfortable with it. I wouldn't feel comfortable with the Saturday delivery at all. And that's just me and my shrimp, you know. So Okay, so first shrimp type, which we covered already, where from and acclimation. So any questions on that subject? I use RO for everything, Dave. Let's go back a bit. So let's all get Michelins. Yeah, if anyone's not in the Facebook group, what's the Facebook group called, Rob? Shrimp Fanatics UK?
Yeah, Shrimp Fanatics UK GB Shrimp.
Yeah, Shrimp Fanatics UK GB Shrimp. The admin are really good in there, and they'll answer questions, and a lot of the members are really good at answering questions as well. So if anyone wants to join that Facebook group, I'm happy to do that. So I'm just going to go back a bit.
You need to give some moderators rights to a few more people, Glenn, so they can share stuff and that.
I can't do it on here. I have to do it on YouTube, and I'm not on YouTube.
Right,
Jeff's got it permanently, so I need to do it on a live where we've gone live on YouTube and give those people. So Jeff's already got mod rights, like always. I'm not sure if Keith has, but he should have, and if he hasn't, he should have. He hasn't. Long project. So John said galaxies equals selective breeding with Taiwan B shrimp, Caridina catanensis, and tiger shrimp. Many years of generations.
About 10.
And John's. Ironically, I've done this today. So John said that he still gets lots of blue steels from his galaxies. I've took 2 baby blue steels out of my galaxy tank today, and they've gone in the Michelin tank. And they still throw reds from time to time. My black ones still throw reds, so I've actually moved some red babies.
Make it more black and bloody blah.
Yeah, I take them out, and I've took a couple. There's probably more in there. Pretty newborn, but I probably moved them a bit early. So Mal says his TAP is 7 and TDS 240 Neos do really well. So he's guessing it's calcium predominantly to get them growing shell replacement. I add cuttlebone to my Neo tanks, not because the GH isn't right, because I've usually got snails in there, and I want to give the snails an added calcium source. Your group is great for that. Let's all get Michelins. I've got a fair few in my mixed tank if anyone needs to start too. Thanks, Kaz. Rob never fits the general demographic. Orange Bucket B&Q. Yeah, ditto. So I think this was about drip acclimating. Charlotte loves a good mixed tank. Dave said, are you using RO? Yeah, I use lots of RO, Dave. So I don't know which way. Yeah. So that black bin in the corner there.
My RO system is there.
If you can see that black bin, it's an 80 litre. I've got 100 litres outside, and I pump the 100. I fill the 80 from outside, pump it in, and then that's my mix. So I'll do a mix in there, and I'll leave it for a few days, a week, before it goes into the tanks for my water changes. Charlotte's tempted to change from Neos to Tigers.
I would. CZ Tigers are a little bit more forgiving if you've got softer water, but I believe she uses RO water. So.
Someone post the link for the group.
I like Blue Bolts.
It's a wonderful group when Glenn can remember the name.
Dark Blue Bolts.
Jeff only ships Monday and Tuesday. Marie wasn't a member of the group. Blue Bolt looked great too. Deep Blue Bolts are even better. Didn't share as a link. Do you sell the filters for an RO? No. So if you want to buy an RO unit, Rob's found a really nice one. I think you got it on Amazon, but I always
Amazon.
use
Yeah, man. My man's buyer. It come all
Via.
kitted. It come kitted with the shut-off automatic pump. It come fitted with the booster pump for extra pump to get you more RO. It come with extra colour changing resin. I've just added an extra resin chamber to it, just to get
Via
000. Via, yeah.
my first unit.
£175, and it's the best £175 I've spent on one today.
My first unit was a Via. It was a 3-stage RO, the small ones, and it was
5 stage, no.
35 quid or something. I think I paid for it.
Finest. Oh no, here's where I got mine from. My first one.
Finest filters.
Finer filters.
No, I use Finest filters. So if anyone knows Finest Aquatics, it's the same company, but they've got an RO side to the business. They're based up in
Widnes.
Yeah, they're over that way. Ellesmere.
Widnes.
Ellesmere Port.
The shop's in Widnes.
I think Finest filters are Ellesmere.
Finest Aquatics are Finest filters.
Yeah, but I think the filter side of it is based in Ellesmere.
Widnes.
The shop's in Widnes.
So it's Widnes.
The shop's in Widnes. The aquatic shop's in Widnes. The filters are they're the same company, but they're a different building. Ellesmere, I'm sure they're Ellesmere, or they've moved.
Glenn knows.
Mine definitely come from Ellesmere. They've moved then, but mine definitely originally came from Ellesmere. Yeah, mine's a Finest filters unit, but they were really good as well, actually, because I bought an automatic shut-off valve from them, and I couldn't read Chinesium, and it was a nightmare to fit, but I rang them and they talked me through it, and I managed to fit it. So what happens is when my 100-litre container's full, it switches off the inlet and the outlet on the unit, so it doesn't waste water as well.
Pretty clever, really, isn't it?
Yeah, I think they did, Keith. I think when they opened the shop, they moved.
Okay.
But they're good. That's all I use. I buy all my spares and everything from there, and they're really good if you want to.
I get my filter floss pads from them because you can buy them in bulk and they fit most models. They're just great.
I buy loads of their fittings to sort of pipe in all my top-up systems and stuff in the tanks.
Yeah.
So that I bought all the pipe and the fittings, and I got boxes of fittings under the shelf here. So in answer to Dave's question, I don't sell RO units, but Finest filters. So there are two companies, Finer Filters and Finest Filters. They're probably both good, but I use Finest Aquatics and have done for years.
I've gone up to buy.
This is my favourite one. This is. I'm a feeder, and it causes me problems. I really need to get into the habit that shrimp are detrivores. They'll eat decaying matter, biofilm, algae. They never stop eating. They're always eating, even in the dark. They eat. And your feed should be based on number of shrimp in the tank. So I was feeding 3 times a week. I now feed some tanks twice and some tanks once, and some tanks don't get fed for a fortnight.
I'm the same. I'm only once a week feeder.
So
Unless
if they've got algae,
if there's babies in there, I had a pinch of baby food.
Yeah. I've got some photos of green wall in my Galaxy tank, and it's just smothered in babies. So they're feeding, they're eating biofilm and algae. I'm an overfeeder. One stick, one little tiny pellet should be enough for 20 shrimp for 1 week. And what they don't eat in 2 to 3 hours, you should take out.
Remove.
Don't
Always
need
remove
it.
uneaten food. They've
Gavin's
done
gonna. Gavin's gonna. I know Gav's not a feeder, and I'd happily go. I'd happily go on holiday for 10 days and not worry about feeding my shrimp at all.
Yep, same.
Wouldn't bother me. And if one of them, I know this sounds horrible, if one of them dies, they'll feed anyway. They'll eat they'll eat whatever. If one dies, they'll eat it. They'll eat it. They'll eat exoskeletons, molts, because they want the calcium from the molt. So Rob's actually seen them eat snail poo.
Yeah.
So shrimp eat snail poo, and snails eat shrimp poo.
Snail eats the pellet. Shrimp eats the snail pellet poo. It was funny last night. Marie, when she was live, was going on about there was something white coming out of the back end of a shrimp, and she was real worried it was a parasite or something. And guess what it was? She'd fed him a white tab, so the poo was coming out white. You know, as it does.
Yeah, because they haven't got a stomach per se.
Digest what goes in comes straight out.
Yeah, they absorb through like a tract. It's not really a stomach like a traditional stomach. What did you send us? Some white tabs?
Yeah.
Daniel's ones.
Yeah, roast shrimp. Yeah.
I think he's back in production. It might be his snow food though. He sent me a picture. I think he's back in production of one of the foods, but it might be snow food.
Pellet machine's working again.
Yeah.
So he's back.
So water changes then. Feeding, you can supplement with one of the things. This sort of falls into additives. One of the things I would say is always have leaves in your tank at different stages of decomposition, even if it's a piece, because they'll eat off that. It will create biofilm. You know, Indian almond leaf, jackfruit leaf, stuff like that. Water changes as a beginner Caridina keeper, I'd recommend you do 10% a week, every week.
Minimum.
And then, yeah, you want to be doing 10% a week. I do 10% a week out of habit. Theoretically, I could probably do less on some of my tanks because they don't get fed heavy these days.
I do 40%.
There's more stability. There's more stability, but as you sort of get more comfortable, you'll work out what regime works for you, and this is probably where a TDS pen does come in handy. But you're not changing water to TDS. You want to keep your GH at 5. Obviously, if your TDS is excessive, you're overfeeding or something's going in the tank.
Overfeeding can create a lot of problems.
So realistically, water changes should be 10% a week. Sometimes I'll do 20%, but more often than not, 10% on every tank weekly, unless it's the house tank, which isn't a shrimp tank, and that gets 90% every week, because my missus thinks that a pinch is about this big. A pinch of fish food is the size of a small orange.
My African cichlids, they get changed twice weekly, 50%. And
It'd be more.
My tetras is about 40%. Once every week, sometimes every 10 days, because softer water.
If your TDS was too high and you're doing 10% a week, you could go to 20. I wouldn't go more than 20 personally, but you'd be better off doing 10% a week to bring that down. You'd be much better off doing 10% on a Saturday, 10% on a Wednesday, something like that, than doing 20%, and always drip it back in. I actually pump mine on float valve, so it's a bit more than a drip. But because it's only 10%, they're not fast, and I can adjust the flow. Have you got one to show, Rob?
What's that? What do you want me to show?
Float valve.
Float valve?
Yeah. I might have one here actually. I need to move this.
Oh yeah.
So what I use sometimes is I've got a small water pump connected to a piece of RO tubing with one of those float valves on the top and a tap. So if you've only got one tank, you could screw that to the side, switch the pump on, and just turn the tap down so it's a fast drip. You can go a bit fast.
You put it into your tank and then you adjust the flow to fill your tank back up easy.
Turn your pump on, yeah. I actually do it with the valve fully open, but you can turn it down if you want to as well. So the last bit sort of does me out of a job to a degree. Parameter, well, the last two bits, not the very last bit does, not the other one. Parameters then will be dependent on the type of shrimp that you have, but we want to keep stability. So if your shrimp need 6.5 pH and a GH of 5 and a KH of 0, that's what you're looking to keep. We mentioned earlier, don't chase TDS. It's an indicator that something's you're overfeeding or something like that. So keep your parameters, and you want to try and keep them as stable as possible. The reason I put additives into this last section is because
that was me when I went wrong.
a lot of stuff is not necessarily important in your beginner Caridina journey. So all the different additives that you can add, they're not necessary. They do a job, but you don't need them, is what I'm trying to say. The only thing I would do as an additive is, I've already mentioned this, I would keep leaves in my tank. Oak leaves, from a clean source, obviously oak leaves, catappa leaves, Indian almond, jackfruit leaves, beech leaves, walnut leaves, banana leaves, stuff like that, because they produce biofilm, and shrimp will graze on them and actually eat those leaves as they decay. So a bit of leaf, if you've only got 20 shrimp, you don't really want to throw a whole catappa leaf in. Cut it into 4, throw a bit in week 1, a bit in week 2, a bit in week 3, a bit in week 4, and so you've got them at various stages of sort of decomposition. I do use additives. I'll tell you what I use and how often I use it, but that's probably more because I probably class myself as more of an advanced Caridina keeper. I add probiotics once a fortnight. I add enzymes on the opposing fortnight, and when I mix my water, I add a trace element, and I also add a humic and fulvic acid to my water. I believe Mark's Tanks did one the weekend about acidifying your RO water. My RO water's 5.5 pH anyway, because RO, when exposed to air, acts like a sponge and it pulls in CO2 and converts it to carbonic acid. So it will acidify anyway. But I've always added something called Rich One to my mix water, which is a humic and fulvic acid, which are naturally present where those shrimp would come from. It's a natural thing that they'd be accustomed to. But decaying leaves will give you tannins, which are also humic and fulvic acids. So what I'm sort of trying to say is, don't get tied up with, oh, I need to buy this additive, I need to buy that additive, I need to do this, I need to do that. Don't tinker. John, who's in the chat, John, who's in the chat, said something, and we were trying to remember it earlier. And I think John said, set and forget. Keep your hands out of the tank. Don't mess with it too much. Just
set and forget gives you stability.
You want stability. That is the key. Caridina, if you understand some basic principles, aren't hard to keep. What makes them difficult is people mess. And I was guilty of that. Rob would give me all this advice and other people would give me all this advice. But that's not how I learn. I learn by making mistakes. And I bought a cheap TDS pen, knew that 150 give me that. But after a couple of months, that TDS pen, even calibrated, was horrific. And Gavin mentioned that he uses a specific type. And when I used that new type, if I'd have tested the GH, I'd have known my pen was faulty or rubbish. But I wasn't. I was relying on this TDS pen. And you don't need to. You need to follow the instructions on your salts and test your GH. The TDS pen's irrelevant. It's a guide. I'm going to...
I'm listening. I've got it on the TV as well. So
I'm going to go to... this is the last question, guys. I'm going to go to Q&A. And so Keith's corrected me, I think, but I'll come to that. So...
why's it gone quiet?
Oh, that's good. So Karen does a jug out and a jug in.
Yeah, jug
every
out,
week. Yeah, that's good. I do 10%. I've actually got lines on my tank that I've measured 10%. Charlotte's seen hers eat snail poo.
Charlotte's learned not to overfeed.
Best advice I ever had was only feed once a month, a small pinch, if around 100 shrimp and less. Don't bother the tank. The tank will make enough up, yeah? Don't overfeed. You wouldn't stop laughing at me. I've seen mine eat snail poo. I think shrimp jug in, jug out is an art form. I bomb my tanks with food to breed fish. I would struggle with shrimp. Not Neos, you wouldn't. You would with Caridina, but Neos are, if your fish are eating the food anyway, the shrimp aren't going. The shrimp will get the leftovers. So Charlotte's asked a question. She struggles about removing shrimp by accident when she changes water. How can she rectify that? A stocking over the pipe? Yeah.
Have a spare bucket of tank water available, and always plunk items, plants, wood. Always give it a good few dunks into the water, and all the shrimp should free themselves before you put them into the other water.
So even with water changes, if I water change into different colour buckets depending on the shrimp.
Yeah.
And before that goes down the drain, I check the bucket. And every now and then I'll have a baby or something in it. Keith loves your setups. If level's still high and not overfeeding, you're doing filter maintenance because filters can get nasty. The bio load on a shrimp only tank it's negligible. I mean, they don't get me wrong, they still get dirty. So with a UGF box, you take the top off, shove a pipe down it, and siphon that. That was me when I met Rob. Thanks to Rob. That's why I bought a big water barrel on wheels and pumped back in only. So one of the things about water changes as well, which I forgot to mention, is your tanks will naturally evaporate. And when that water evaporates, you're increasing the hardness of that water because you've got less water for the minerals that are in there. Always, always, always do a pure RO top up before you do a water change. Always. Because what you'll be doing, and drip that back in as well, because what you'll be doing is you'll be putting it back to where it should be before you take water out to do a water change. And if you're not doing RO top ups, gradually your general hardness will increase over time. So Keith said those are DOCs, not tannins. DOCs will chip. I don't get that. Is that on about like the fulvic and humic acids?
Yeah.
Thanks, Mandy.
Oh, that's nice to hear, Mandy. Thank you.
Yeah, the humic and fulvic acid. The only reason I use it is because Rob told me to when I started, and I still use it. Rich one. Every water change. I've always used Rich one every water change.
I always use it on a water change.
What's worth discussing as well is, you know, when we spoke about bacters and cycling, because shrimp have such a low bio load, after every water change, I put in a pinch of bacter.
I don't use it.
You use a different one? Yeah, I like PS, I do. But I'm now getting, and when I say a pinch, I'm talking a third of that spoon, a third to half that spoon in a 45 litre tank, a 10-gallon tank. But
white bucket shrimp.
I'm now starting to use the dead shrimp powder after every water change. And remember, these also build biofilm.
The hardness will always increase, Charlotte, even in a fish tank through evaporation. So if you don't replace the evaporated water, your GH and KH will slightly rise, which in turn swings your pH. If you don't do it long term, sometimes you can crash your cycle.
So I've got one thing to mention. I've had one tank that I couldn't cycle. I had a tank that was at 5.2 pH. I added an Dr. Tim's to it, and it just would not cycle because the pH was too low.
Yeah, if your pH was too low.
So what I ended up doing, I ended up draining it 99%, filling it back up with non-ammonia filled RO water that was remineralized, and just put shrimp in it. Another thing to remember is
You, Charlotte, yes.
at really low pH, ammonia is nowhere near as toxic as higher pH.
Rich,
Because
Rich, this is to Charlotte. Rich, regarding Rich one, what fulvic acids, humic acids do, they make the, because the water goes darker, the fish become brighter and feel safer. So fish colour up a lot more. Got to pull up in my charger. I was on 100
So-
this phone. Rubbish.
I've got a white bucket and an orange bucket because dark shrimp show up well on the orange bucket, and orange shrimp show up really well on the white bucket. So absolutely, white and orange buckets all the way.
This is what I use now for my shrimp tanks and my fish tanks to fulvic acid to fill the water. I use this. Black water
That's it.
extract.
I've got the SL one.
This is Ista. Really good stuff. Really, the fish absolutely love it.
Is it clear, Rob?
No, it's black. It's like a black liquid. It's like, imagine if you put 2 spoons of coffee in a cup and then you added just 1 spoon of water. You get this, that consistency. It's like tart. Very thick. Yeah. But my fish go crazy for it.
So Keith's right. In acid, ammonia becomes ammonium, and ammonium isn't as toxic as ammonia. I've done some weird and wonderful things by rushing a tank. I really wanted to move some shrimp, so I used stability for a week in a tank that had been running a week. So on the set, I moved shrimp after a week and literally just run. I was adding Bacters and I was running Seachem stability for a week. Thanks, Kaz, for that advice.
Seachem stability to me is just a waste of money because
it works, but it's an expensive diluted product.
It's the same with adding cichlid trace to my African cichlids. They highly recommend it. But all what's in cichlid trace is already in my water.
Anyway, yeah.
So you just add in extra for the case of 12 quid. Nah, I'll pass.
So yeah, evaporation top-ups are absolutely necessary. And I'm a nightmare for not always doing them.
Remember to top a tanker.
I mean, it's easy for me as well. All I need to do is get a 25-litre bucket of RO, plug it in, switch a switch. One lot does this, one lot does that. I just need to flip it between 2 lots, and when with my 2 water bins, one for my soft water RO, one for my hard water. That's why I don't know if you can see this, but if I'm not sure if you can see this, but I've got blue lines on my tank. So I've actually got 3 blue lines. So I've got a 20%, a 10%, and the fill line, just with a Sharpie. And I'll run my RO when I do it. I'll run pure RO, and I know from the pure RO when my tanks are full because I've marked the full line on them based on the float that's on that tank. So I'll run it till it's full to the max. I've done my first line, and then I've actually measured the height of the tank and divided it into 10 and measured down. So if it was 4.5 centimeters to 10%, I've marked 4.5 centimeter. I've done that on every tank. Apart from these, I need to do this top shelf here because these are the last 2 tanks in.
I'll be grudge. waste of water, Keith. That's why I reuse it. I just pump it through a second system, so it takes out. But I use an HMA filter, so basically it's just dechlorinated, so I don't have to use no prams or anything. It's just wet to treat for me.
Yeah, so I just waste. It's just Band-Aid, though, don't you think? You need to figure out why stable in the first place. You're using it until you can fix the problem. What's that? What's a Band-Aid?
Stability.
Oh yeah, it takes a while to understand what your tanks need, but if you keep Caridina, I mean the stuff on the second lot that we want to talk about, like mixed tanks and multiple tank syndrome, and if you're serious about Caridina, the longer you keep them, the more you'll look at a tank and you'll know something's not right, something's off.
Visually, you can tell. A shrimp can tell you a lot of things by the way it's acting, reacting, not feeding, still.
Oh, Seachem's a Band-Aid. Yeah,
Seachem is a Band-Aid.
Yeah, the only reason I used it was because I didn't have time to cycle the tank the way I wanted. I'd normally cycle the tank. So yeah, 100%. It was, I needed to move shrimp. I'd got no choice. I had to move them into a tank that wasn't properly cycled. And the only way I could do that was with Seachem products, or put them into a tank and risk them breeding with another strain of shrimp. So, I say normally I'd cycle a completely different way, but that's me done, and we've covered everything that I wanted to cover. I don't know if you've got anything to add to that, Rob.
No, you've covered all boundaries.
Should we quickly go on to what we'd planned for part 2?
Can do.
Let me see if I can find it. So I've actually got I haven't got 2 phones, so that I'm not into all that. But this is an old phone of mine that's still connected to the internet, and I'm just downloading some notes. I use something called Google Keep Notes. Yeah, it was you that gave me the idea, Kaz. 7-day stability in an emergency. So I wouldn't recommend it. And they were good shrimp that we so part 2, what we were going to talk about were these were the subjects for part 2, or variants of those. Breeding and selecting, mixed tanks and why they're important, test kits and equipment, which would probably be the first one, to be honest. Disease prevention and emergency kits. We said leave the what's it one, didn't we? Plants, botanicals and decor. These are specifically for Caridina tanks, and multiple tank syndrome, and how to combat it. It's real, but so those were sort of the subjects. So there's less subjects, but I think a couple of those subjects could get sort of quite in depth.
Yeah, most definitely.
So diseases, prevention of diseases, and sort of disaster recovery, I think could be quite a detailed, or not detailed, dependent on question. Breeding and selecting could be big. Breeding and selecting leads into mixed tanks and why they're so important. Test kits and equipment. We've sort of slightly covered a bit of that today. Plants, botanicals and decor or not, because we know people that have bare shrimp tanks with nothing in them. Bone doesn't have a stitch of anything in his tank, you know.
No, keep it the Asian way. Keep it basic.
Soil and a filter. That's it.
The Asian way.
But I like somewhere for babies to hide. I like
Take care,
plants.
Charlotte.
See you later, Charlotte.
Bye.
Yeah, that word combat it was quite loose. I mean, theoretically, you could combat it by keep buying more. But so, if anyone's got any questions, now is the time. Otherwise, I'm going to. If you've not kept shrimp before, Sweet Acres Koi, I'd definitely start with Neo Caridina.
Yeah, Neo Caridinas are a good starting. But if you want to go to Caridina, start with Neo Caridina. Is good word of advice. Jumping straight in costs you a lot of mistakes and a lot of money. I'm guilty of that.
You'd love to know how to set up a rack. Jump on a train and I'll show you. I think I've got videos covering all of that, Keith.
Setting up a rack is pretty easy. I had your old man on the book where I was using a 22 mil piping for the air pump to go into, and where the shelf was, I put 5 taps. So I had 1 extra always and 2 for each tank. And put your tanks in place, fit your filters, fill them up, put your soils in. Away you go.
Don't use monkey metal racks.
Yeah, don't buy cheap racks. Our best rack I bought, I did the old sit down on its head, and he ended up on the floor. I still, believe it or not, I still use that rack there, but that rack is all supported underneath with inch and a half, all the way around the back, underneath the floor. It's extra feet on it. It's also fixed to the wall in some places because I just didn't trust it.
The best racks by far, in my opinion, are, what's your orange one that you painted black, Rob?
Rapid racking.
Rapid racking version 1, but
Yeah,
it is
version 1.
mad expensive. I use version 2, which isn't as strong, but it's slightly less expensive. And I ended up taking all the shelves out and buying 18 mil ply and sealing it.
I've got Trespa and then hardboard, and then I've got marine ply. It's mine's triple layered, so it's actually an overkill. But for my peace of mind, I don't want to be laid in my bed and crash fuddle. Oh my God, there's fish everywhere.
Lost you, Rob. You disappeared then.
Yeah, Glenn will send me the links for it. I also know a good website for another quality racking system, but it comes in black. But the weight capacity per shelf is 250 kilo, and it comes with hardboard, which is about 1 inch thick. It's about £96, but it's the best £96 you'll ever spend.
Rapid racking. I think I bought mine from a company in Scotland.
I've got a 1200 rapid rack. This is a rapid rack as well, but it's in white.
That's a proper one.
See the orange underneath.
That's the proper rapid racking, that is.
That's my top stuff.
This is rapid here that I'm starting to paint, but mine was grey, and I've cut it down a little bit. So that's rapid 2. And what I've done, so the shelves sit flush. I've got 18mm marine ply in there, and I've given it 3 coats of a waterproofing paint and used PVA glue around the edges of the board.
Well, how many tanks would you start with? As many as you can fit on each level. Go with that. I've got 2 37 litres per shelf, and the bottom's able for a larger body tank, which is custom built low boys. I mean, my low boys are custom built, so as short as they look, they're over a foot and a half deep, 450mm deep.
I've got my racking's 915 wide, and I've got 245 litres on each row.
Yeah, 245 is about right. That's what you would look for. I got my tanks from Steel. I got them on special. It was only $19.99. If you bought more than 2, it worked out £19 a fish tank for a 37 litre. What was about
the 45 litre super fish scapers are nice, because with shrimp, really, you want floor space, not height. You want floor space, not height with shrimp.
You could actually get, if you were doing it, so a tank,
no,
you get 6 on the rack.
You get 6, yeah.
6 45s for one each level, but tank to tank.
If you was happy to have them low, you'd get 8.
But what you can do, you can turn them so your tanks are long ways. So, like for instance, these tanks go all the way back. So as short as they look, they go back all the way.
Let me see if I can move this. Bear with me a second. I'm gonna This is one of the Rapid Rack 2s, and so the one with the frogs on, I've cut down, but that's a full size one. So I've got 2 on the top, 2 on the middle, 2 below, and theoretically I could probably get 2 more low boys down below that.
Well,
so 2 of these low boys, but because of my back, there's no way I want tanks that low. And that's the only reason I haven't. When I had them in the house before my back went, I had 8 tanks per rack. It was only when I moved into here that I went to 4. Why is that so wobbly? It was only when I went into here. But if you're happy to have low stuff, personally, I think the low one is much better as storage.
Yeah, that's what I'm.
I think the bottom part of the rack is loads better for storage.
Worst thing I ever did was put tanks on the bottom layer, because water change is not as easy, because you've not got much coverage when it comes to gravity. Water changes take longer, maintenance is harder.
Keith, can you do an FFL stats for me, please? Or can you only do it if you're moderator?
I'm happy my back's not. I know that feeling.
I think there's a bit of a delay.
Yeah, there is a delay.
Trying to see what the stats are like. It might need to be a mod. I'll make you a mod in the channel for the lives permanently. I made Jeff a mod, but I accidentally give him sort of full life cycle type thing.
Mm.
Yeah, Karen used yacht varnish on her wood, then matting.
I use the same as what Glenn uses, because it's waterproof.
Duck's back yacht varnish is waterproof as well, but you need a couple of coats, I think.
I did several coats, and I sealed the edges with wood glue, let it harden, and then I painted over.
Same. exactly the same.
So
I'm gonna wrap up there, guys. I'm struggling a bit here, and standing up to show you them tanks made me realise that I need to move. So thank you ever so much, everybody, for watching and getting involved. We haven't set a date for the next one yet, but it'll probably be a week or two. So we may go for next Monday, but we'll publicise it anyway.
Yes. Okay.
And I've just turned down 10 days in Turkey again.
So I'll enjoy the rest of your evening.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, guys.
All right, guys.
Take care, everybody.
Till next time. Bye-bye.
Speak to you soon. Thanks, Sweet Acres. Much appreciated. Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye.